In this update, we are tracking a conveyor belt of storm systems. The first one is highlighted over the southwest, but yet there's another one that's trailing behind that one, and yet there's even another one that's up here towards the Bering Sea, and yet there's even another one that will be trailing behind that one. Those are all going to be diving south and tapping into this more active subtropical jet stream that's going to have a lot of water content value as these move across from west to east. So I appreciate all my subscribers out there. If you are new here, I put out a lot of content pretty much on a daily basis. So hit the subscribe button and follow along so I can keep you well ahead of the storm. So let's break down some snowfall totals. And this is just the last 24 hours, folks. That storm system is just clocking Arizona right now. In fact, Flagstaff's already up to 26 inches of snow, and it's still coming down in buckets out there. Even outside of Vegas, they're picking up some heavy snows, and out towards the Salt Lake City region, you can see the legend just on the far left-hand corner of the screen here. Yeah, some of these totals are over 2 feet. So this is going to be continuing to snow in the higher elevations as this first system will be traversing across. So if we look at the surface map, you can see the heavy snows flying in Arizona, and then yet there's another one that will be trailing behind that one. So we've got more rain coming back in the picture for the Bay Area, and the more mountain snows in for the Intermountain West. That will continue to traverse across into the southwest regions and bringing more heavy snow for those areas into Flagstaff, outside of Vegas there, into the mountain ranges of Utah, as well as into Colorado there. And yes, that's the last thing you need is more rain for Los Angeles and back into San Diego, but you got to have another round coming your way. Likely probably another 1 to 2 inches over the next couple of days is definitely not out of the question, of course, on top of all the rainfall that you've had. But we do have a developing low pressure up there by the Dakotas, and that's going to be putting out some decent snowfall totals up there towards, Montana, back into southern portions of Canada there, getting into, portions of North Dakota, as well as far northern portions of Minnesota, as this system will be, traversing across to the northeast. But overall, the big picture, we're still dealing with that dominant ridge of high pressure. We've actually got some record high temperatures are likely to unfold on Thursday as well as Friday under that more or less heat dome and the warm up that's been so prevalent over these regions the last week or two. But we do have some colder air on the way, and it's all complements of this trough that is diving into the western regions. That's what's bringing all the snowfall across that. But that will be slowly, finally starting to slowly move across. And as it does, it's going to tap into those vorticities that I kind of showed you and tap into some of that colder air and wring out that rainfall, heavy rainfall, and then even some snow in its wake. So here's the overall precipitation totals from now through your Saturday time frame. So we've got the first one that's highlighted over the four corners regions right now, and then yet we have that other one that will be impacting California again. So if you add it all up, yeah, easily another 1 to 2 inches of heavy rainfall across these regions into California through the southwest regions. But we do have some instability that's going to form out ahead of it back into the southeast through Tennessee into Kentucky. This is all rain there as the first system will be moving in. So here's the additional snowfall totals on top of what you've already seen already. So yeah, they're estimating in feet up there in the Sierra Mountains there, but out towards into Utah, back into Flagstaff again, through Arizona, through Colorado there, as all the way up into portions of Wyoming and back into the Dakotas with that snowfall total. But you can see the leading edge of that's trying to peek into that panhandle of Texas. That's because we've got the other storm system will be moving in. So here's the first one. We've got a wave of precipitation that's going to be, wringing out the atmosphere in the form of rain. Some of these could be some strong thunderstorms down here towards southeast Texas, especially into Louisiana, into Arkansas, and into Mississippi, back into Tennessee, as well as into Kentucky. But it's the second piece of energy right here. This is going to be cold enough to start snowing into some of these regions. as this will be tapping into some of that, colder air. And some of these could be kind of surprises as this starts to come to fruition. So it's all complements of this low pressure center. So there's high confidence now that the low pressure will start to dig deep down there into eastern portions of New Mexico into the Texas Panhandle, form a formidable low pressure. So out ahead of it, we're going to be just kind of a chilly rain across these regions into North Texas, East Texas, back here towards, Louisiana, back into Mississippi. But this is the area that we'll be watching and kind of fine tuning as that 540 line will be continuing to drop down as we get into that Sunday morning time frame. And the latest update, some of the highest, lowest, resolution guidance, at least this far out, has that low pressure center continuing to dig, and it actually digs all the way down into West Texas, into the Texas Panhandle, into portions of Oklahoma, and that's going to be dragging down a lot of that colder air. And as that low forms, we'll have its own cold core along with it. And then as the precipitation starts to fall, you'll have a dynamic cooling aspect of it too, will help lower the temperatures even a little bit further. So if we look at some of these temperature anomalies heading into that Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon time frame, right underneath where that low pressure will likely be, we're looking at significant drops of 20, almost 25 degrees below average. And yes, that will be start to be cold enough to transfer some of that rain into just kind of a heavy gloppy snow out there into West Texas, into the Texas Panhandle. And so by the time we head into that Sunday morning time frame, it's likely going to be all snow there, transferring into far West Texas, into the Texas Panhandle. Again, it's just all of a chilly rain as you move through portions of Oklahoma, into North Texas, as well as East Texas, and getting into this corridor into the southeast. But as this low continues to deepen, as it starts to strengthen, and as the low pressure will continue to build, we'll have that dynamic cooling aspect of it too. So yes, those areas across Oklahoma now will start changing some of that rain to kind of a heavy wet snow. So I'm looking for more of a dynamic cooling type snow setup with temperatures right at 32, 35, even 37 degrees, and snowing in a lot of these areas, having like a 5-to-1 ratio, just a very wet, heavy snow that's going to be right around that low pressure center. So here's some of the preliminary temperatures heading into Monday morning, with that cold air coming in. So yeah, we could be in the 20s out here in far West Texas, out here towards freezing, even 19 there where the snow falls into the Amarillo region, and right at the cusp of that 32-degree mark. So yes, it can snow right at 37, 35, 34, 32 degrees, obviously less than that. But so yeah, it's going to be a sharp gradient where that low pressure center, and where that low is, that's going to help lower the temperatures another 5 to 7 degrees with that dynamic cooling aspect that's going to be associated with it. That's the combination of all that will be falling, transferring to that, rain in the form of that snow as this low pressure will continue to move up northeast. And as it does, it's going to bring the snow in its wake. So should be highlighted over portions of Missouri as we go into that Monday timeframe, getting back into Illinois, eventually heading into Indiana, and eventually swing all the way over into Ohio. But then eventually head up into the mid-Atlantic by the time we head into that Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning time frame, with all snow for them as the 540 line digs all the way down to Louisiana by then. So the colder air does drop south as the low pressure continues to move northeast, bringing some of that, again, that heavy, wet, dynamic cooling type snow, in its wake. And where that low pressure is, you can see the difference in where the temperatures are going to be. So if that low tracks right over that area, there's the difference in temperatures. You can see from 38 to 31 degrees. That's about 5 to 7 degrees. That will be the difference of where the areas that are going to be seeing snow, and then where the areas that are just going to be not getting anything because they're going to be too far away, from where that low pressure center will be. But if anything, again, I'm looking for kind of a heavy, wet, gloppy type snow that's going to come out of this system. And those type snows can surprise a lot of people because they can be those big, fat, big, fluffy, globe-like flakes that fall out of the sky. And yes, they can add up pretty, significantly over an extended period of time. We already know this atmosphere has a lot of water content value. You saw the heavy rainfall most of California got. They got like 11 trillion gallons of water over the last 10 days. Los Angeles alone picked up 75% of their annual rainfall just in the last 4 days, folks. These are the systems that we're working with, right? So you already know that low's got a lot of water content to be able to work with. So now it's mixing into some of that colder air. So yes, it's going to be some heavy precipitation, and where it's going to have that dynamic cooling aspect taken advantage of, it will be that heavy snows. And then once it gets up into the Northeast, then we're all into the 20s heading into Wednesday morning, well into the 20s there with snow around. So here's the blend. All right. So I'm putting this on for just more or less the track. And we can't track, totals at this moment right now, but we can get a fine tuning on the track. So if you take the national blend, a lot of times the National Weather Service uses the blend, especially this far out, to kind of give you more of a where the storm track will be. So we've got the icon, we've got the Euro. So I'm showing you the blend of where this storm track would likely deepen down here in West Texas, highlighted over the Texas Panhandle, going through Oklahoma, through Kansas, all the way through Missouri, back into Illinois, through Indiana, back into Kentucky, as well as Ohio, getting into West Virginia. And yes, if the low deepens a little bit further, we're probably going to be seeing some higher amounts up here into the mid-Atlantic and heading into the Northeast. But right now, this looks like an increased likelihood of where the snow track will be, and we'll be able to fine-tune this as it gets a little bit closer, because this doesn't even start until Sunday. Right now, it's only Wednesday, so this is more or less a Sunday through Tuesday afternoon, Wednesday morning event, as it starts in the West Texas area, traverses across, and ends up into the Northeast, winding down by Wednesday morning. But behind that, we are trending colder. So this is the first step of the transitional period of colder air coming from the west to the east. Then as it continues to drop, those low pressure centers will continue to drop. So those temperature anomalies get colder going into that middle time frame of February. And what gets interesting for those areas even further south, look how far south this vorticity drops. It drops far south, as south of the Baja there. That's pretty significant, right? So with that cold air in place, yes, that's going to put an increased likelihood of some of this precipitation as this low pressure will be traversing across, into possibly some wintry mix type setups as we get into that 16th through 20th time frame. So that's just something I'm looking out for those areas across the south, because we know we have a conveyor belt of systems that will be diving in, and that's the further south they're going to be able to dig. That puts the placement of any frozen precipitation further south as well. So things, I think, do get interesting, especially into the second half of February. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch me next update where I protect you before and after the storm.